Um, yeah, I kind of sent that bio really quickly. I had written that for a job thing, a work thing, and so that's why it's so jobby and not fun. But I promise to bring the fun now. Um, so, uh, so sometimes there's these moments or revelations that kind of split your life into before and after. I think we've all had things like that. I think that, we just heard a beautiful story about that. So there's the before and the after of some things. So for me, it was July 29th of 2002. That was the day that I moved to the U.S. from Venezuela to pursue grad school at University of Texas at Austin. And that alone is a before and after, right? I lived my whole life in Venezuela before, and now I live in the U.S., and I think I'm staying here for a while. I got tenure. I shouldn't go anywhere. But something more subtle but more important happened that day, too. My mom, because I'm Venezuelan, my mom traveled with me from Venezuela to Austin, Texas. If you don't know this, Venezuelan moms are very protective, and to this day, back then I was 23. I should have been okay moving by myself, but still, I moved in November. My mom came to help me move and to buy furniture with me, right? We are like that. She is there all the time, and sometimes it's great, sometimes. So that day we were in the hotel room. We had just arrived to the U.S. We're in this hotel room that I can only describe as average. Okay, imagine taking all the colors that you know and all the furniture that you've seen and all the pictures that you've seen and then just averaging them out. And that's what this hotel room looked like. Okay, just like the most fucking average thing that you can ever imagine. Okay, this is the picture I want you to have in your head. And I'm sitting on my average bed, and my mom is sitting on her average bed. Average phone rings. Dad is on the phone. Again, because he's Venezuelan, he needs to know that we're okay, even though he saw us that morning when he drove us to the airport, right? But this is how we do things. And so I'm on the phone with him, and we talk for a while. There's not much to talk about, but we still talk for a while. And I say, well, okay, do you want to talk to Mom? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, okay, Mom, do you want to talk to Dad? And she's like, no, not today. And I'm like, all right. And so I hang up the average phone. Mom is sitting on the average bed, and I'm just like a little bit, whatever. I like pretending like everything is fine, and so I'm like just letting it go. But then she just looks at me and she's like, I guess I should tell you that your dad and I are getting a divorce. And this completely shattered my worldview in that moment. This was huge. I know divorce is not always that huge. Often it's a good thing, like Shannon said. For them, it certainly was. But in that moment, it was just like, what? This was completely unexpected. And by the way, I told you a date, July 29th, 2002. It wasn't so earth-shattering that I suddenly remember some random date. Any of you who have had a work or a student visa know that you have to write the first time you entered in the U.S. and every form that you sign for every year that you're here. And so that's the only reason I remember. I don't want you to think that that's like important too much. That I remember the date. I remember the day. And so I'm just sitting there like, I can't believe this. And part of the reason I can't believe this is that I thought they had a perfect marriage, right? I never saw them fight. They never had a fight. They were just like really these cool, smart, intellectual people, just like really nice to me. I never saw them upset. My dad could get a little loud when he drank. My dad drank quite a bit. I still was not connecting those things with what was going on. And this is really a family history of pretending like everything is perfect, okay? So this goes back a long way, probably to my grandmother. We're talking about grandmothers a lot today, too. She is from the Midwest, So even though we're all born and raised in Venezuela, we still have that sort of Midwestern, like, everything's fine kind of thing. But we're also Venezuelans, so we're very emotional. We show lots of emotions, just only good ones. Okay, in my family, you only show the good emotions. You don't get mad, you don't cry, but you're happy, you're loving, you celebrate. And I mean, I should have, like, these are the things that most of you are like, yeah, that's not normal, right? But for me, this is how I was raised. We're always happy, everything's fine. Unicorns, rainbows, lollipops, we're dancing in the meadow. And so and you start seeing things, especially when you get a little bit older, you start, hearing about your great-grandmother who was addicted to morphine, and you're like, well, but, that was a long time ago. Pain medication was like, it was complicated, right? Or you hear about the great-uncle who committed suicide after drunk driving and killing a person, and you're like, yeah, but that's not us, right? Like, that's like far away, right? And then these stories come a little bit closer to you, but they're always still like away from your nucleus. Like my grandmother and her descendants, this is my maternal grandmother, we have somehow managed to, surpass these obstacles that come from our complicated history, but we're good, we're perfect. This little group is perfect. And I guess the first sign of not being perfect was a different situation of divorce, which was we have Sunday dinners at my grandmother's house. We're all there. We're all happy. My aunts and uncles are drinking too much, but I still don't know what that is. I know it now. And then we're talking, and I'm a chatty kid, and I'm one of the oldest, so I feel very much committed to this like family ethos of like, we are happy and awesome, and we talk, and we have to project only good things. And so I start talking about some funny story with respect to my grandfather and his wife. My grandfather and my grandmother are divorced by then, and everyone just goes really quiet. And I know I fucked up, but I don't know why, because I'm 11, so I have no idea what I just did, right? I'm just a kid telling a story that I thought was really funny. Probably involved some diarrhea or something. I don't know. I was 11. But my uncle then later takes me aside, and he's like, we don't talk about her in front of your grandmother. And I'm like, okay. Of course, my reaction was, oh no, I fucked up with the perfect harmony, right? Everything was perfect until I spoke up. So somehow, like, I feel guilty for like ruining everyone's time, for not knowing this rule that I don't know how I was supposed to know. By the way, this is a fucked up thing to do to an 11-year-old. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting all that responsibility on a little kid for like your grandmother's happiness, that's not cool. But, like, these were just little things that like suddenly came all like crashing down on me when I heard about my parents, because I'm like, okay, so everything I thought was perfect was not. This was a lie. And then you feel really betrayed, because you feel like if for, your whole life, I was 23, and my whole life I just had this weird, it's a little bit arrested development, I guess. Like I just, I was still in that like childhood phase of, oh, my parents are great. I recognized flaws. I was a smart kid. I was going to grad school, but somehow like I was not really seeing the people for what they were. And so I went in the other direction for a little while, just like betrayal, everyone lies, everyone hides everything, this is terrible. And I had my oldest cousin, so the two of us are the oldest, and I think we were the most sort of indoctrinated into the cult of perfection, right? We were perfect. And then we were also the most upset when we figured out eventually that we weren't. And it took us the longest, too. All the young kids were fine, and they were like, yeah, we knew everything was wrong for a while. And we were just somehow like the good kids, right? There's no surprise that we're the only two people also to be treated for depression, but that's a story for another time. But we started getting this sort of thing where we would like get together, drink some whiskey, and just bitch about the family, right? And like, oh, our family's so fucked up, so terrible, everything is terrible, everyone's a liar. And then it wasn't until I heard him say all those things to me that I started being like, wait, hold on. There are like families that have real problems, right? Like, you know this, because I know this. There's like violence and abuse and serious like substance abuse, or people who grow up in extreme poverty. Like, we had a house, we had food, we had a family that loved us. I was like, and then I realized I'm starting to sort of like come back, you know, from the like everything is horrible. And I was like, maybe the only fucked up thing was this delusion that we lived under that we were perfect, when in reality, we were much more like that average hotel room in which I found out that, you know, things were not perfect. We were just really fucking average.